Final Fantasy XIV, one of the best-selling MMORPG games out there, with one character being able to play every class, amazing story, dungeons, raids and trials, community to brag to be in, events to join, made by Square Enix or not, superb voice acting, fishing. And honestly, an amazing game.
And you probably won't like it. That's quite a claim I'm making. I mean, a game that's been loved by a lot of people. Heck, I prioritize this over Warframe. And yet, I still make that claim. So why am I making this claim? What is the good and the bad side of this game? What is the ugly side of this game? And should you even listen to me? Well, let's talk about the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV.
May 9th, 2020. I made a video, My Adventure with MMORPG, where I talked about how Final Fantasy XIV is still not the MMORPG I'm looking for. This has changed. It is definitely my MMORPG and one of my favorite games of all time, but I am looking for others when I have time. Currently, there are none that intrigues me, and a lot of MMORPG anime games are heading towards Genshin Impact kind of gameplay and or multiplayer, which isn't what I'm looking for.
So I stick with Final Fantasy XIV, made friends along the way, and just dive deeper and deeper into the game, and loved every single bit of it. But before I did everything, before I journeyed grand, I needed to start from the very beginning. Like everyone, the character creation.
As of recording this, we have 8 playable races in this game. Hyrule, aka humans, Elezen, aka elves, Lalafell, Mikyote, aka cat people nya, Mikyote, aka cat people nya. Okay. Let's try that again. Try again. Mikyote, aka nya peep. Anime was a mistake. Nya. Oh, come on! Rogarden, Aura, Vera, aka bunny folks, and finally, Hirotgar, aka lion folks. Now, each characters have different stats when starting, but I'm going to tell you this now. It doesn't matter. At all. Even if you're going competitive, the stat difference is so minuscule that it won't matter if you're playing a race opposing to what the character you are supposed to play. And I love that.
Honestly speaking, they could just remove the stats. But lore-wise, I understand why each race has each different stats, each different ways to survive. Plus, when you're starting off with your beginning class, you do need something to, play your class. But even with that, I just love how you can just customize your character any way you want, however you want. I mean, there is some limitation because it's an MMO game. You can't just have the slide bar to change your chin or anything. They have like selected presets and all that jazz. But for what we got, this a lot of choices and customization you can do with your character, and I honestly don't have that much complaint about it. So there's the here and there that I want more. I want maybe slide bars and everything would have been better, but I'm not gonna complain about the things we currently have. Maybe the hairstyles, but that's a complaint for a lot of games for me.
Usually in games with customization option, I try to make characters which resembles me because I want to immerse myself in this fantasy world. This time I want to change that and play a character who wasn't me. Monoto Delight. When I made Monoto, I had one goal in mind: to make the cutest yet adventurous character I could. A Lalafell fit that bill too well, and the more I customized him, the more I loved him. I don't think it's a stretch to say he is the cutest character I ever made. And honestly, the cutest character ever in Final Fantasy XIV. And if you disagree with me, you are wrong. Your opinion is wrong, and how dare you think otherwise? Go to your naughty corner. With that said, playing characters with different classes and race brings different interactions in cutscenes later in the story. And honestly, these things makes the game more interactive and immersive, and I love every bit of why they did it. And if you ever feel like you picked the wrong race or you just want to try new ones, you can buy Fantasia via the online store with IRL money, and or get one free Fantasia after you beat the first story arc, A Realm Reborn.
I do have an advice though. Please do not be a Fantasia addict. We have too many of those already. As for me, I don't think I'm ever gonna change my character to any other race. I still have my free Fantasia because I can't see Monoto being anyone but a Lalafell. And playing another race just feels off by this point.
With that said, the race system still has a problem. More so with sexualization on both ends. This isn't the case with all races. Lalafell, Mikote, Nia, and Elezen, for example, are safe. But with race like Aura, you can see what I am talking about. Male are strong, bold, tall, muscular looking, and female is small, beautiful, and kind looking.
Genuine question. Why can't we have the opposite?
No, seriously, I get that sometimes in the lore it makes sense and yada yada yada, but we have seen time and time and time again that lore means nothing for each characters trying to be themselves. So why not give us the option to build a strong, muscular woman or a short, kind-looking man?
And I can't spoil the main story quest too much, but let's just say for our race, both gender can kick your ass.
Hi, Future Maxim here. I forgot to put this in the script. I don't know where else to put it, so I'm gonna put it here. Yes, in Final Fantasy XIV, there is a thing where you can cross-dress. Well, female can wear male clothes and male can wear female clothes, yada yada yada. Even though there's some items that's still limited and all that, whatever. Point here is, I'm also talking about the physical characteristic of the races where you can build strong muscular women or all that jazz, rather than the material that support that characteristics. Are we cool? Cool. I don't even know if that was, something to add, but I just added here just in case. Continue. I get it. It's an MMO game. But when you have something so different, despite being the same race, that feels off. Not to mention, sometimes only one gender character can be played. Male Vera, for example, was a character you can only play when the Endwalker expansion came out. And you still can't play the female Heterogar as of recording this. Why not give both genders from the beginning?
There's a lot more I can talk about it, but by this point I'll be just nitpicking about which is better and which is worse and all that. So let's just save time and go to the next topic. Gameplay and classes.
Final Fantasy XIV has 3 types of classes: Adventurer, Crafting, and Gatherer. We'll talk about Adventurer first, since that is one you start off with. As an Adventurer, there are 4 types of role you can get into: Ranged Attacker, which does DPS for range; Melee Attacker, which does DPS near the enemy; Tank, which keeps all the enemy attack so that other roles have easier time doing their duty, aka aggroing the enemies; and Healer, which does healing and support buff.
Yeah, it's your main 3: Healer, Tank, DPS. Why break something that isn't broken? But what makes this unique compared to other MMORPGs, at least in my opinion, is that the healer also needs to do DPS. So Jeff, you need to note this down and put your chips away. This is very important.
Everyone is responsible for DPS, aka attacking the enemies. In the beginning, it is difficult to find a balance to attack and heal, especially since early dungeons are, well, let's just say they prioritize healing over everything else. But any DPS is better than no DPS, because later on in the game, if you don't do DPS in certain amount of time, the bosses will basically do massive AoE damage constantly, which you won't be able to heal in time.
Yes, as a healer, your priority is to heal the party and support the party. But you still need to do DPS when you can. I'm not going to go further at this point because everyone in the community will just pressure you to do it and point that you have to do it. It is very advised. I'll give you one tip though. You don't fully need to heal the party. You don't need to 100% it every time. A good threshold would be 80 to 90% of their max HP. Obviously, it depends on situation to situations, but that is a good note to consider. So Jeff, after you hear this, do a better job at healing and DPSing.
But yeah, there's different roles with different classes to get into. Explaining them all will be too long for this video, and this video already gonna be long enough, so I'll leave you with this. I like the classes. It's different enough that you feel special playing it, while the mechanic is a bit universal at times. Like Samurai's and Dark Knight's 1-2-3 combo attack is a good example. Also, please put limit break in your hotbar. The game never tells you to put them, so you just have to put them yourself. Trust me, you'll need them. With that said, the game has multiple ways for you to play as an adventurer, means one being dungeons, raids, and trials. And it usually depends which ones are good and not, but overall, I say they all are pretty good. Bosses can be challenging, and you get rewarded with better gears or tokens or something else. A good thing to note is that there is an unspoken rule of what people get what. If the chest has a gear of your class you're playing currently, you can get it, and others will give it to you. Likewise, if you're not playing the class the gear it is for, you must pass or greed so that the other who is maybe playing the class gets it.
just so you know, need always prioritize over greed. So let's say you got 76 on greed, but someone else got 21 on need. Need is always going to win in this case because need is higher rank than greed. And pass basically means you don't want the item, period.
There's also a lot of other things like island buildings, events, ether current, which is a big mistake, treasure hunting, and so many more. Just know that you don't need to do everything all at once. Take your time because this game can get overwhelming at times. We'll get back to that later. As for crafting and gathering, well, they aren't necessary for main story quests, but it is a good way to earn money via trading with players or trade markets. Do bear in mind that it takes forever just to do each of them, so time is a thing you need to consider.
There's also the whole guild, aka free company in this game that I really want to get into. Well, I can just be with people and do like free company events. Well, they have like Halloween costume events or anything. I don't know, I'm just sprouting it. Or maybe we'll do the typical ultimate and savages run. Basically extreme mode of each bosses, which is really difficult. I really want to get into it, and there's a lot of things I want to do. I just sometimes don't have that because time, life, and just lack of communicating with people. But when I do, I know I'm going to have a blast because the community in this game is really good and you really want to be in it.
You can just walk around and you can see people doing their stuff. Some may be dancing, some may be vibing, some may be playing music, some are crafting, and some...
Yeah, we don't talk about those people.
But all in all, the community is an amazing place to be in. There's Lalafell parades where Lalafell goes from one location to another in a parade. There's in-game events, both publicly and private in free companies at times. Sometimes there's even bars where actual DJs stream music on Twitch or other streaming platforms while we dance in Final Fantasy XIV. Heck, when Kintaro Miura, the creator of the manga Berserk, passed away in 2021, there was a whole line of people as the class Dark Knight standing in honor for this man. It's incredible what the community has built, and even when you feel like there's nothing to do, just sitting and seeing things unfold feels special.
And yet, with so many things already in the game, I still haven't talked about the best thing about it: the story.
Truthfully speaking, the story in the beginning is slow. The first arc, A Realm Reborn, is, while not the best, isn't bad either. It's a pretty decent story, but nothing to boast about. Heaven's Word, however, yeah, that's when the story gets really good. Being the warrior of light and experiencing the world and people is beautiful. And the more you try to understand the world, the more you want to get into it. With voice actings and everything being pretty good, at least the English version, I don't know the other versions. You just want to be involved in it. And while Stormblood was okay, Shadowbringer was amazing and really, really good storytelling.
When it comes to medias and games and everything, I do find the story to be very predictable. This might be because I have played so many games, I have watched so many medias that I can see all those cliches and tropes and patterns where the story will lead. And, it's not always fun to be right. But When Shadowbringer came, yes, some things were predictable, but the story they told just made me feel special, made me feel like, oh, this is a story I have never seen. This is beautiful. And don't even get me started with Endwalker, because Endwalker was such a good finale of the story. A book one, you could say. We are currently in the passage of book 2 arc, or the first arc of book 2. The story is so amazing, and I really advise you to just listen to it. Don't rush it. Take your own time. If you want to just play an hour and just listen to the cutscene, and cutscene takes like 50%, fine, but do not skip it. It's really good, and the game itself looks beautiful. I mean, just look at it. I have talked about the good things about this game. Yes, I have also talked about the bad and the ugly side of the game, but there's so much good things about this game that I recommend it to everyone. Everyone who I know, every gamer I know, I recommended Final Fantasy XIV. Some even tried it because of me, but everyone walked away. That makes no sense. This amazing game that I really love, this game that everyone loved, why would they walk away with this? Well, that leads me to the final critic of this game, and what seems to be the deal breaker to a lot of people as well. 2 words: information overload. Just look at it. There's so many buttons and things that it can get overwhelming just to keep track of everything. And I played a healer. Let me put it this way. As a healer, aka scholar in this case, you need to track your attack, see if your DO3 or poisoning your enemies is active. Make sure your allies is in good health. Is anyone down? No? Okay. Anything in cooldown? Okay. See if your enemies are going to do AoE attack. What kind? When? Oh wait, you're dead. It gets even more frustrating when your friends just understand the whole mechanic after one rotation, and it takes you 2 to 3 boss runs just to understand the same thing they understood in one rotation, because you slowly taking the information and you can't take it as fast as your friends. You feel like a burden to the whole team. And as a healer, every time you go down in the new bosses, in the new raids, every time as a healer myself, you feel like a failure. And that's just the battle system. Some people think too many side quests everywhere was too much, or places where people gather a lot like Limsa is way too much for them to process. Information overload is real, and Final Fantasy XIV cannot fix it because they are overly too deep into it. I don't know if I can say it's a flaw of this game, but it is a side effect because of new mechanics to be informed every single time. I hate that I have to end the video with that critic, but it is very important that you understand that information overload will happen. That some people might take 2, 3 or even more just to understand the boss, to understand the whole mechanic. That sometimes there's so many buttons that it can get very frustrating, that maybe they can't make friends there because of some life or luck or whatever, that sometimes it doesn't click. but it clicks with me. It just, I found friends who are really willing to learn with me, who are willing to accept that I can't take information. I have found people that loves to play games with me with like that. I have found stories that's so beautiful. I have found gameplay that I actually like. While frustrating at times, it's so satisfying to learn that. I have found a beautiful game with a beautiful story, with beautiful character, with beautiful community. Please try Final Fantasy XIV. It's a beautiful game, and honestly, it's at least worth a try. And hey, if you don't like it, if you think it's overloaded or whatever, at least you tried. Like, comment and subscribe, because this took a lot to make. Now, excuse me. Legally, apparently I have to read this because I made at least one Final Fantasy XIV video. So, what can you do? Have you heard of the critical acclaim MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV with an expanded free trial which you can play through the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heavensward expansion up to level 16 for free with no restriction on playtime? Things I do for love.